Welcome to Santaroga Surplus. This is the introduction video for the series that we're going to do on the Polish P64 pistol. I'm going to warn you right now, this is a reshoot. If you had watched the original version, you're going to see some differences. I had to reshoot the first three parts because everything was out of frame when I moved the camera. This is a 9x18 Makarov chambered, blowback operated firearm with a decocking safety and a 6-round magazine. 6-round magazine is not a whole lot. This is the one that I actually carry. I do carry this pistol on the farm because it is relatively inexpensive. It is incredibly robust. It is very difficult to make this thing malfunction, and shoulder holsters are or were cheap. This is actually a Polish military shoulder holster, and it actually works as suspenders in a way. Maybe we'll get to that later on. At one point, these were going for $9, so I bought a bunch of them. This is the traditional Block holster that everyone's familiar with. These are the two holsters you see most often. Excuse that, I just hit the camera. This is part of the problem with moving the camera. So this is the one that I carry often, and no matching magazines. I do have some with matching magazines, and we'll talk about that. 9x18 Makarov, it's a very useful round. I have butchered several animals with it and shot a couple coyotes, and I have no difficulty with this. This firearm is incredibly small, and we're going to go ahead and put this one away and get out our project one for the rest of this video because I don't want live rounds on my table. I just wanted you to see the one that I carry. Yeah, except I have to show you that almost everything you see in the United States is going to be, at least everything I've seen, either from 1968, there's a date, 1968, or 1976. There's a date, 1976. Some point in time, I believe it was 1972, they updated the design and you have a larger triangular hammer spur. And you can see that's the smaller original 1968 or 1964 style hammer spur. And there were a couple minor differences inside the trigger group, but they're not, you really can't even notice them, so whatever. They are otherwise identical firearms. They're both model P64. We're going to put my carry one away. This is going to be our project because this is the one that I have that is in the ugliest condition. This one does not have a matching magazine, and I do have some that have matching magazines. The magazines are electro-penciled, so you can't definitively say that it's a matching original magazine, but they're not force-matched, and the electro-pencil does match the firearm. So we're not going to mess with those. This is the most worn of the ones I own. It is 6 1/4 inches long. It is 4.5 inches high. It is 1 inch thick at the grips. It is 0.85 inches thick along the slide and 0.95 at the safety. Okay? This is a very thin profile firearm. It's remarkably easy to carry. If it didn't have the 6-round problem, it would probably be a lot more popular. There are two other things that people will often complain about with this. No live ammunition anywhere, we are in gunsmithing mode. One is the sights, and I disagree completely on everyone who does not like the sights. The sights have a good tunnel. They have a really good curvature that gives you a very instinctive ability to grasp the sight picture. The sights are very fine, and I think that is the main complaint people have, is that the sights are so fine that they're a little bit difficult to pick up if you're a Glock shooter. However, I regularly shoot this at 2-liter bottles at 75 yards and 50 yards, and I hit at 75 yards more than half the time, barely, and at 50 yards I hit consistently. This is a very accurate and handy firearm, and considering that we're dealing with something that is literally smaller than a Walther PP and almost exactly the size of a Remington RM 380, okay? It's remarkable how accurate it is at range. So, you have a 4.5-inch sight radius, in fact, which is not bad considering the size of the pistol. Okay, you have a short barrel, 3.33 inches, 3 1/3 inches. There was a version of this pistol that was in consideration in the early 60s, late 50s to early 60s, that was a little bit larger, had 1 inch more barrel, and it had a 7-round magazine instead of a 6-round magazine. That was considered to be the military, and this was considered to be the police version of the design, and it is an original design. However, this one won out for all production and became a full military sidearm for Polish forces for several years. In 1983, they replaced it with a updated version that has a little bit lighter double-action trigger pull and a larger magazine capacity. That's the P83, of course. So the other people complaint about this is the incredibly, atrociously, ridiculously heavy double-action trigger pull, and it's heavy, but it's not uncontrollable. And I regularly hit plates, double action, single action. I'll run a string of 7 with no misses at moderately fast fire. It's not that bad. You have to be able to do that, and for a lot of people it's not a Glock, but then again, it's not a Glock. So that's really all there is to this. You have the 1968 and 1976 dates seem to be the only ones I've ever seen imported. You have the absolute basic 6-round magazine, the double action, single action, hammer drop safety. It is safe to carry loaded. It does have a trigger safety, so the hammer cannot go into the firing pin if the trigger is not pressed, and when the safety is on, it completely blocks the firing pin from moving at all. The firing pin spring is strong enough that I would not have a problem. I do not have a problem carrying it with a round in the chamber, decocked, safety off. I do that on a regular basis. There's your loaded chamber indicator. And we'll, as we do the full teardown series of the videos, we will get into how that works. But you do have one. It is shiny and tactile. Heel magazine release, and it is buried. It is buried in the grips, so it's a little bit harder to get at than some of them, but it is very secure. If your goal is to shoot 3-gun competition, this is not what you want. If your goal is to have something where the magazine isn't going to fall out and it's going to go bang when you need it, and you're not really worried about having 75 rounds, this is not a bad pistol. There is an extension. I'm going to have to bring my carry version back out again. There is an extension that you can put on that brings it down slightly so that it's a little bit easier to get at. I have it, and I'm of two minds about it. On the one hand, yeah, it works. On the other hand, for hip carry, I don't think I really like it. Not on the farm. I'm not a cubicle dweller. I crawl under tractors and I butcher hogs and things, so I don't know. For me, this seems a little more secure. The only other things on this series, we've got a weight. The weight is 1 pound 6 ounces, which is 22 ounces, which is I do not speak metric, 630-ish grams, mental math. Takedown is very simple. You want to clear, you want it cocked because that you have to be able to, it's easier to disassemble and it's required for reassembly. You pull the trigger guard down, much in the fashion of a Walther, but this is not a Walther design. Push it off to the side, pull the slide back, lift, off it comes. The spring is keyed. It goes whoa, 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 that way. This way you have to twist it on a little bit. It is actually slightly smaller over here. Okay? And so that's field stripped. That's it. We'll get into a little bit more on field stripping, cleaning, taking the grips off and everything in video number 2. For right now, we're just going to put it back together the right way. And have a good one.